with the vision right, skills to empower futures lie. In Kenya schools we're on the rise, our dream takes flight to new heights. Oh, we're climbing step by step, building future strong and set. CBET, changing lives anew. In CBET, watch us break through.
Our fellow viewers, we welcome you back to Flockel Show. Today, we are continuing with the presentation of CBET principles, and today we are going to look at principle number 5, which is clear, measurable learning outcome. The principle of clear, measurable learning outcomes is fundamental to competency-based education and training, CBET. This principle focuses on defining specific, observable, and measurable competencies that learners are expected to master during their educational journey. These learning outcomes serve as clear benchmarks to guide both instruction and assessment, ensuring that learners acquire the specific skills and knowledge to meet industry standards. Here are some of the aspects that Flockel Show will address based on this principle. Aspect number 1 is specific and defined competencies. Clear learning outcomes are specific, focused, and related to the competencies learners need to demonstrate. These outcomes outline what learners should know, be able to do, or demonstrate after completing a learning activity, module, or program. For example, in a CBET program for mechanical engineering, a learning outcome might be the learner will be able to perform basic troubleshooting on a motor system, including identifying mechanical faults and replacing damaged components. Aspect number 2 is measurable outcomes. Learning outcomes must be measurable, meaning they can be assessed through specific criteria. This helps ensure that both instructors and learners can track progress and determine whether the learner has achieved the desired competency. For example, a learning outcome in a customer service training program might be the learner will be able to resolve customer complaints in less than 5 minutes, achieving a satisfaction rating of 85% or higher. This outcome is measurable through customer satisfaction surveys or performance assessments. Aspect number 3 is alignment with industry or professional standards. Clear and measurable learning outcomes are aligned with the skills and knowledge required by employers or industry standards. This ensures that the program prepares learners for real-world challenges and makes them job-ready upon completion. For example, for a healthcare training program, a learning outcome could be the learner will be able to administer medication to patients according to the correct dosage and safety protocols in line with the national healthcare standards. Aspect number 4 is focused on application and performance. In other words, CBET should be focused on application and performance. In CBET, learning outcomes are often designed to assess learners' ability to apply what they have learned in practical situations. These outcomes focus on what learners can do rather than what they know in an abstract sense. For example, a learning outcome for a welding course could be the learner will be able to successfully weld steel joints with a minimum strength rating of 80% based on industry performance standards. Aspect number 5, we have measurable through formative and summative assessments. In other words, whatever you are teaching must be measurable through formative and summative assessment. Formative assessment is ongoing assessment, and summative assessment is final assessment, which are used to evaluate whether learners have achieved the learning outcomes. These assessments are designed to measure both progress and final competencies. For example, a project-based assessment might evaluate a learner's ability to design a product, while a written exam could measure theoretical knowledge. Both are linked to measurable outcomes that show if the learner has achieved mastery in a particular area. Aspect number 6, we have clear indicators of mastery. Each learning outcome should have clear criteria that indicate whether a learner has mastered a competency. These indicators can make the form of rubrics, grading criteria, or specific benchmarks and demonstrate skill or knowledge acquisition. For example, a clear indicator for mastering a programming competency might be the learner will be able to write a fully functional code that meets the specified problem requirements with 0 syntax errors and correct output. Aspect number 7 is descriptive and action-oriented language. Measurable learning outcomes should be written using action verbs that describe the skills or behaviors the learner should demonstrate. Using action-oriented verbs such as analyze, demonstrate, construct, apply, makes it clear what learners are expected to achieve. For example, a learning outcome for a financial accounting course could be the learner will be able to analyze financial statements and prepare balance sheets for a given company. Then aspect number 8, we have level of achievement. Learning outcomes should also define the expected level of achievement or proficiency that learners must demonstrate. This could be based on a scale, e.g., beginner, intermediate, advanced, or specific performance standards. For example, for a language learning program, a learning outcome could be the learner will be able to engage in a basic conversation in French, demonstrating proficiency at the A2 level of the Common European Framework of Reference for Language. Aspect number 9, we have realistic attainable goals. While learning outcomes should be ambitious, they must also be realistic and attainable for learners. The goal is to ensure that the learner can realistically achieve the outcomes within the scope of the program and give their starting points. For example, a goal for a software development course might be a learner will be able to create a basic mobile application with a functional user interface within the time frame of 12 weeks, ensuring that the goal is achievable for the learners within the given constraints. Then we move on to aspect number 10, there is continuous monitoring and adaptation. Clear and measurable learning outcomes also require continuous monitoring to ensure that learners are progressing towards the desired competencies. If necessary, adjustments are made to the instructional approach or resources to ensure that all learners meet the outcomes. For example, if assessments show that learners are struggling with a specific competency, e.g., database management, instructors might offer additional resources, tutoring, or revise the teaching method to ensure that the outcome is met. Finally, for Show, we'll look at the benefits of clear, measurable learning outcome in CBET. Benefit number 1 is clarity and transparency. Learners know exactly what they need to learn and how their progress will be measured. This transparency helps increase motivation and focus. Benefit number 2 is effective assessment. Clear outcomes provide a solid foundation for developing assessments that are aligned with the competencies being taught. Learners can demonstrate their mastery through various assessments such as practical exams, projects, or written tests. Benefit number 3, we have focused learning for CBET. Measuring outcomes guide the learning process and ensure that learners focus on acquiring the most relevant skills and knowledge. This helps prevent the inclusion of irrelevant content in the curriculum. Benefit number 4 is accountability. Both instructors and learners are held accountable to measurable outcomes. Instructors can track learners' progress and adjust their teaching strategies, while learners are encouraged to meet the set standards. Benefit number 5 is improved employability. Since learning outcomes are aligned with industry requirements, learners are equipped with the skills and competencies needed in the workforce, enhancing their employability. Then benefit number 6 is data-driven improvements. The measurable nature of learning outcomes allows institutions to track overall program effectiveness, identify areas for improvement, and make data-driven decisions for continuous improvement. Thank you so much for listening to Fokil Show. We encourage our viewers to visit our YouTube channel from time to time. You can also consider subscribing to our YouTube channel so that once we upload these videos, you get them as and when we upload them. Thank you so much, and continue viewing Fokil Show.
Engage and explore. Fokil Show we inform, in wisdom we store. Through words we teach, and insights we proclaim. Together we grow, seeking knowledge flame. Fokil Show we share lessons in the air. Learning what's new with open mind.